It's one of the reasons why I dislike my previous job is because of the results of my actions. Um, the U.S. military tried to shield us from that information, but because I saw it happening in real time, because I have the information for it, well, let's just say I started having panic attacks when I found out they wanted me to go back to fixing planes. Part of that was because I'm the kind of person that needs change every so often. And at this particular age, I also want to be able to pursue something that means something to me. So there's all these feelings I have about the work that I've done and what that means on a global scale. And those panic attacks from the damage that I caused, that is the root of PTSD. I don't really give a shit if you think I'm faking. The entire VA healthcare system is based around proving that all of the veterans are faking their injuries, whether mental or physical. Oh, they come in immediately from the standpoint that every veteran is trying to game the system. So it may as well be like I have no health care right now. Because the doctors that are actually helping, they have too many patients. That wasn't exactly how I wanted to start this video. How I wanted to start it was because of all of that. One of the things that it started affecting me about was the things that I enjoyed doing. What I enjoy doing is just technology and playing video games. I all of this stuff I do myself. This is my passion. I don't People ask me about my stream and they say, "Hey, what are your hobbies?" And everything that I do on my stream is my hobby. But it's hard um, to log into some of the games that I used to play nowadays because you can only log in so many times and ask your buddy how they're doing and hear, "Oh man, I'm shitty, dude. Somebody just blew up my backyard." And you can't tell them that you think it might have been you that did it. even with people in the US, I'll hear firecrackers or whatever going off in the background, and it'll remind me. So the reason why this video is titled Groomer is because that's what the media is trying to paint me as. Even after all of this, that's all a lot of people see me as. I talk about a lot of the stuff on my streams that I do. And I've figured that doing these videos is better than not trying to get my story out there somehow. I don't want you to feel sorry for me. I don't want to get things because you feel bad about the things that happened to me. What I want is just for people to acknowledge my abilities. I've done a lot. I can still do a lot. And I think about this term, groomer. Did you know $16.7 billion is spent per election cycle? And it goes up every election cycle. $16.7 billion and just to convince Americans that other Americans are bad. Only $800 million is spent on military recruitment advertisements. That money is spent to convince poor people to join the military and write a blank check up to your own life just for you. That's what I gave you. I don't want handouts and donations. I want the system to work. You know what's worse than that? Religion in the US is a 1.2 trillion with a T, trillion, TR trillion, just to indoctrinate people into a belief system based around a book that they don't read. Trillion. What's the price of salvation? Where does that trillions of dollars go? Corporate interests? Snake oil salesmen? to buying some preacher a jet to harass people in another country. In comparison, I'm spending $0 to make this video. Aside from the internet that I paid for, electricity that I paid for, but I was using that stuff anyway. That's what I'm up against. My grandmother, one of my grandmothers, is a devout Christian. And she always reminds me, remember, money is power. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. $1.2 trillion. There's not always two sides. Look, dude. Offline, the media, there's what, CNN and Fox? CNN, MSNBC, NBC versus Fox. I've met people who watch Fox and they watch all the rest of those channels. I don't watch TV. My information I get offline. And I fact check and verify my sources through other people that fact check and verify sources. And whenever somebody tells me something about Fox News, I look it up. One of my conservative friends is complaining one day about the Green New Deal. That was a common thing that conservatives were arguing against passionately. And my friend was like, oh, you must take the blah, blah, blah on MSNBC side. Rachel Maddow. I've never seen her show, not once. I don't even watch clips of her show. What I do is I go to the US government's website and I read the text of that bill. And if I don't understand that text, I go to one of the lawyer pages that has read the text of that bill and has made clip notes. So I ask my friend, what's in the bill that's got you so frustrated? I don't know, I haven't read it. It's just that Fox says this. I was like, how do you know Fox isn't lying to you? Oh, I don't know, I trust them. You don't trust the government, but you trust a random channel. Okay. Let me clarify. CNN and Fox are kind of like WWE SmackDown and WWE Raw. Sure, they fight, but at the end of the day, they're the same brand. And they can frame the story however they feel like if you think there are two sides. There's not always two sides. Sometimes there's only one. And sometimes it's multifaceted, which means there could be several sides. But if you're only focused on the two sides, you don't see any of that. For example, do you remember when Trump was elected president the first time? Do you remember all of the news about how the voting machines would automatically vote for Trump when people were trying to vote for Hillary? For some reason, the narrative was they're rigging the election and we're not rigging the election, instead of the election machines are fucking broken. There's not always two sides. Do you have an education in mental health? Have you studied as much as I have, at least, on all of the nuances of mental health, just in order to try to figure out what the hell you are? I don't think you have. So the argument behind that doesn't include my story. All it is trans people exist. Trans people don't exist. I exist. I am right here. Hello. There's not always two sides. Queer people are just hedonistic sex machines. It's true about some of us. Me personally, I'm celibate because the Christian church told me to be. Remember? See, all of my Christian friends, they got married out of wedlock. Every single one that I know. But unlike them, I'm still waiting for marriage. Do you understand what that means? My doctors keep scanning me every single time that I go there, for every STD they can find, they can think of. I have a full blood work test every single time. STD test, hyperthyroidism test, vitamin D test. That's it. Every time I go in there to complain about fatigue, depression, which depression by now should be obvious why I have depression. And if you don't know, watch the last video. Asexual people are under the queer umbrella. They're still considered gay. They're considered gay because they don't have sex with the opposite sex, even if they're not sexually attracted to anybody. And they don't feel the need. Biological clock argument notwithstanding. For some people, that's true. For other people, it is very much not. Speaking of mental health, you know the FBI shot Martin Luther King, right? I'll get there. Hold on. On the other hand, the FBI did not shoot JFK. There's a lot of conspiracy theories as to what exactly happened that day. And if you've watched Full Metal Jacket, you know that it was conducted by a United States Marine. Why would a Marine do that? A Marine would do that if he believed he was protecting his country. Well, not every Marine. But with that level of tenacity, that's what he believed. Guarantee it. So I actually researched into JFK's history, and it was JFK's sister, I think. Somebody in the JFK family, in the Kennedy family, was admitted to a mental institution. And while inside that mental institution, the family signed off on a lobotomy, a frontal lobe lobotomy. Because she was unruly. And I thought to myself after reading that, well, shit, dude, if I heard that, I'd probably find it a grassy knoll myself. And that brings me to Pizzagate. Rocket Pizza. Rocket Pizza was a chain of restaurants. I don't know if they're still in operation. The one near me got shut down. But there was one particular belief circulating. I don't know where it came from or where it went after it died. No pun intended. With all of the human trafficking going on, somewhere the words Hillary Clinton and is holding kids in the basement of a Rocket Pizza for pedophiles. And do you know what happened? Somebody went into that pizzeria and shot it up. They did a shooting in a pizzeria, which probably didn't even have a basement, really. they believed they were doing the right thing, right? There's not always two sides. The first time I actually created, or rather used my account on Reddit, which I has deleted for reasons. Reddit, after joining a trans help sub for questioning people, popped up not detrans, but gender critical. And on gender critical, they don't discuss gender or the complexities of it. All they do is say they collect information about every single trans person they can, and then they frame it in a perverted view. So they do their best to link it directly to hedonism. Now, I don't know a whole lot of gay people. There is a stigma around gay people that they have a lot of sex. I can't relate, obviously. But you know what? I know a lot of straight dudes that do talk about and brag about how much sex they have. What's the difference? Gay or straight? There isn't one. You don't know what I've given up to be exactly where I am today, right now, right here. I used to have armed guards. The US military offered me a literal dream job, and I had to turn it down because I was miserable and I couldn't figure out what to do about it. And they didn't want to help me. And everybody else was miserable. And for some reason, half of the country hated me, even though I wasn't the president or even running for president. Did you know the government lost my private information 3 times? And do you know what their solution was? They gave me a 1 year free trial to LifeLock to compensate. They lost my private info so that I would subscribe to this forever. I was terminally online since I was 4, 8. Hell, I think there might even be a government surveillance system that started in the year that I was born, and I'm tracked in that ever since. So no matter what I do, I'm screwed. That's why I do. Since there's nothing else for me to do, there's no reason for me to do but follow my own ethics. And I don't want that. Like, I want to believe that the people in my country give a shit. but they're too busy. They're too tired. And they don't have time to fuck with politics. The most important thing that affects everybody's life on a daily basis. Because they're worried about their own survival. They're worried about how they're going to feed their family. Did you know that a good portion of the United States military is on food stamps? Not even veterans, enlisted people on food stamps. Something's wrong. A good portion of the United States military lives paycheck to paycheck, just like everybody outside the military. Sure, we have all of these extra benefits that civilians don't have access to. And yet still, food stamps and living paycheck to paycheck. Something's wrong. And after all of that, Will Smith slapped Chris Rock. It is what is arguably the most important time in United States history. Bro, that was a slap that was heard around the world. Will Smith, an idol to literally everybody in the world. I wonder if he knows that. Yeah, a lot of people look up to Will Smith. They see him as an actual good role model. And then after all of that, he slaps Chris Rock. The reason why that's so weird is because even though I tried to ignore actors' names and ignore celebrities, because I don't really care about that world. I only care about what's in front of me, what I need to do. Because I was just trying to survive as well. But those two people are some of a lot of people that I essentially grew up with. They don't know it. They live in a different world. Separate. That's weird to think about. How we can grow up with somebody and know everything about them, and yet they don't even know they have fans sometimes. In conclusion, Have you heard about Tom Morello? This is my favorite anecdote by far. Tom Morello is the lead guitarist of Rage Against the Machine. He was a rights activist. He's been to jail 5 times. He has an anecdote about him taking his kid to school and how the other parents don't know anything about Tom Morello aside from the fact that he's been to jail 5 times. They don't know why he's been to jail. They just know he might be sketchy. I want to compare that view to my view. Another of my conservative friends, he asked me one day, whatever happened to Tom Morello? His argument was that these rock stars, these bands that were singing about equality, fighting the system, fixing everything, basically fell off the face of the earth. Because the last thing anybody has heard about Tom Morello was how he gave up to go surfing. "9/11 messed up a lot more than just the Twin Towers. After 9/11, um, I forgot a lot of metal bands got censored. Even though it was for a short time, even though it was only temporary, these bands ended up, after that, splitting up, doing their own thing for a few years. Some of them got back together eventually, but some of them didn't. You know, they wanted to have a family, settle down. And they didn't realize that all of these people still believed in the words that they were saying. That's how divided the country is. That's why I need people to give a shit. Watch this video to the end. Thank you. You know how YouTube works. I'm not going to tell you how. Peace out.